Continental 6 transistor AM radio repair. This was sent in. This is one of the last outside repairs I'm going to take, especially now that the lockdown is over and I have to get busy and be a productive member of Chaz. So let me go through the reading material here and see what we got, and then I'll key the camera back up. Try and go over some of the key highlights. It worked when it was put away with no battery for half a century, and then it didn't work. He changed some electrolytics, and he had trouble with the foil peeling off the crappy circuit board and some of the antenna leads. So let's just start with a good solid visual inspection of this. And we have the SAMs here. Always start with a good solid visual inspection. Well, that's a trip. That almost looks like it oxidized or corroded or something like that. This is going to be painful to work on. Man, that is in there tight. So, looks like it has 2 IFs. Converter, the oscillator coil is red, and then 1 IF, 2 IF. It's probably the oscillator there. Then we got our audio driver and audio output. But since he mentions in here the antenna connection, I think the first place to start is to very carefully inspect where the antenna is connected. And just as a side note on small transistor radios like this, very rarely will electrolytic capacitors ever cause the thing to be totally quiet and dead. It'll cause them to squeal and be quiet, but not stone dead. So it's just I thought I'd throw that in there. Oh wow, I open up the SAMs and I get this, so I guess this is where he sees the problem, but I'm not even going to go there right now. I want to look at where the antenna's connected. Okay, to start with, this wire here, see that wire there? That wire there is connected to the horizontal oscillator coil. Yeah, real good. To the AM oscillator coil. And it looks like on the photo fact that it should be connected right here to this trace. I know it's going to be hard to see. And also, this is the oscillator coil. And you can see this is the antenna. This is the bar antenna. And none of these are connected directly to this. This simply provides, there's connected to the base of the converter and the bias voltage comes up through it. So if this, I don't know, we got to check this out. And that would be correct, because if you look at here, X1 base, it points to that trace right there. And you look at the schematic, X1 base right there should connect to the coil. I disconnected that wire and I'm checking it with the meter, and it's got 0.8 volts on it, so that should be about right. Okay, still dead. I got that wire hooked up where I believe it goes, but I'm not 100% sure because the schematic is a little bit different from this board. Well, it's working kind of very weakly, and it's weird if I touch my probe to the emitter of that transistor.
Well, great. I'll tell you what, this is a fantastic dealership. They're in Fontana. I want you to ask for Mike Capozio, the general manager.
And it's tuning. I can actually tune it through stations. So it's just very weak. I'm going to pull the converter transistor out and check it because I'm getting the proper 8.7 volts here, but I'm not getting the 1.2 and 1.1. They're very low. They're like 0.4. So I'm going to just pull it out and that'll give me a better view of the circuit anyway, because it doesn't look the same as the schematic. Okay, I think I figured it out. This is the emitter of the transistor, right? This is the collector. This is the emitter right here. And this is the base. And what happened here was when he recapped this, he bent this right here is where the antenna wire is supposed to be connected, not this here. This trace is completely missing, and he bent it over and connected it to the AVC line, which is part of the capacitor. So let me straighten this out. I just hope I didn't damage any of these coils.
Might be better for you to get that 12 grand now instead of an extra 200 a month later over time.
You see where I got this connected?
Not yet started your Social Security benefits, and you're running into serious financial difficulty due to a reduction or elimination of income because of Roger Goodell. Hammered it and take your paycheck, and you're on. Tu música no volverá a ser igual. 980, la mera mera. Alta definición. The IRS has ever offered. An excellent. Over one. Cuando te vaya el mora. And the meat of the check is going to principal Digo, tranquilo, realmente. En gran entendimiento.
Amor que Dios Padre le ha...
¿Qué va de aquí? Hand it down. Not home over.
Let me find LA Oldies here.
우리에게 말씀하고 있다는 것입니다. 그래서
제작하기도 했습니다.
This is a very good working radio, very sensitive for the size of it. Speaker has a little rattle to it, or the cabinet maybe. And the nice guys get washed away by the snow and the rain. Like the snow and the rain. Okay, where this wire is connected right here, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to drip a little bit of transformer wax on that, and I'm talking about right here, the base of that transistor. I'm going to drip a little transformer wax on that. Okay. It might not be pretty, but it is what it is. So I put a little wax there because that's just that little microscopic wire soldered onto one pin of a transistor. I think we're good here. If this thing picks up this station, this well, it's very sensitive.
The current laws aren't keeping up in LA. Chris Sancarlo, KFI News.
Tourists can't expect masks, sanitizer, and smaller tour groups as Catalina Island attempts to recover from COVID-19.
The history of these things There's so many other different meanings. So why are you just picking something that makes you feel comfortable?
Well, and that's what's happened here. We know that there are players that are been elected to the Baseball Hall of Fame that use steroids.
Yeah, that little rattle in the speaker or the grill is pretty annoying. But you have to turn it up pretty loud to get to that. I'm not going to screw with it.
Better than I do. Lance Armstrong, okay, he was on the juice.
Yes.
Okay.
Everybody was on the juice at that point in racing. So-called sanitation czars were
I want to be a sanitation czar.
Significant amount of the eligible matter.
Very good working radio.
Every month.
Looking at the construction of this, the speaker comes out through the front. You have to unclip all these things and then take the grill off and then pull the speaker out the front. I'm not going to screw with it because it's a good working radio. If you turn it up though, it starts rattling, which is very annoying to me.
We're committed to every client, every time, no exceptions, no excuses, giving you the best mortgage experience. Call us today at 8338-ROCKET or go to rocketmortgage.com to learn more. Rates subject to change.
I mean, you know, if the guy that owns it wants to risk taking it apart, then that's on him. But I'm not gonna pry these up and pull it apart and risk screwing up the aesthetics of it for a little rattle at a higher volume. So it's just a wiring issue. That was it. The recap, everything looks good, just a wiring issue.
One crash looks like it made it over to the right shoulder.
Alright, here's the next one. He dropped this one as he was packing it or something. Okay, let me see. I tried replacing C2, which was an 8 microfarad. The smallest I had was 47. It appeared to be shorted. I reattached the battery leads. This is not... I think you could pick up another one of these on eBay pretty easy. Well, this is kind of a classy radio. Are these socketed? No, they're not socketed. Interesting. Alright, let's see what this one does. We'll have to dial down to, what do we got here? 3 volts? Is that what we're doing on this one? 3 volts. 3 volts. Ooh, interesting. We can't use the power supply on this one. We have to use batteries because this uses the center tapped balancing for the output. So we have to use batteries on this one. No power supply. Okay, this one's along the same lines as the other one. A little scratchy when you turn the volume control, but no reception whatsoever. Interesting, the first thing I'm going to do is inspect these leads, the antenna, but interesting, it looks like there's one transistor that is socketed, which is the converter. That's an interesting move by Zenith. You can see this is almost the exact same circuit as the Continental Japanese radio. Very similar. So, yeah, interesting that they would socket the converter. Wonder what their intention was there. They knew that was the transistor that failed the most, or was the most sensitive, or what? Let's do some DC voltage checks on this. So we should have negative 2.8 on the collector, negative 1 on the base, and negative 0.9 on the emitter. The base is connected to the antenna, just like on the other radio. So let's see. On the collector we have 2.4, which they say 2.8. Okay, on the base we have 0.8, they say 1. And on the emitter we have 0.2 and they say 0.9. So we have a differential between 0.8 and 0.2 between the base and the emitter, and that's way too much for a germanium transistor. Germanium transistors should be like 0.2. So maybe the converter is bad. It is not a transistor anymore. Might have been at one time. Let's see, I have transistors, germanium transistors, thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of germanium transistors. And I have some here that a viewer sent me. PNP germanium. 2N, let's see. 2N404, I think we should try these first because 2N404 is kind of a standard germanium transistor for this set. Those are NPN germaniums. I never did get around. I'm waiting for a shipment from Russia that's taking forever because of this COVID thing. So let's try one of these, 2N404. These are actually Texas Instruments, so Beta's 39. We should compare a couple of them. See, the forward voltage on this is 124 millivolts. Look at this one. The Beta's 315. Germanium transistors, man, they're getting old. Look at this one. The Beta's 115. Take your pick. Pick your cancer. This is a GT309. I tried these and I got pretty much the same voltage results as with the bad one. So I'm going to try this one. So let me see. I'm going to say this oscillator is not running. This capacitor is installed backwards, for one thing. Oh boy, I'm really riding the short bus here today. The capacitor was not in backwards. I had the batteries in backwards. See, these batteries are reversible intentionally, so you can run it on mercury batteries or regular pin light batteries. And I had them in backwards, which means it still doesn't, well, it sort of makes my diagnosis irrelevant up to the point where I put the transistor in the checker and it checked like 2 diodes. Now I just got emitter and collector reversed here. So yeah, we're really riding the short bus on this one. I make a lot of mistakes and I don't mind sharing that I make mistakes because anyone doing this could make the mistakes. Well, that's a different symptom. Okay, pretty sure I got this right. I tacked one of the 404s onto the back of the socket because the leads won't fit into the socket without damaging it. And it's sort of working. It's just very, very quiet. So this could be a capacitor. Like for instance, this capacitor right here. If that little 8 microfarad was open, maybe that's the one he replaced with the 47. But if that was open, it would cause it. Let's see what other capacitors. That's about it. So let's see C2, if C2 has been changed. C2 is not bad, so it's signal tracer time. Getting kind of burned out on this thing a little bit. Okay, so that's coming out of the volume control.
It's great. America did a great job that they get to Dallas, like Boston, mask. Requiring people to wear masks on the plane, and it's really up to the flight crew. That's my problem. If this person sitting around me is not wearing a mask, I'd be pissed.
Yeah, I feel like, the masks, other people, they're wearing masks to protect you. And come and don't wear masks. I'm just saying, the heck with you. I don't care if you get sick. There are some people walking around with that.
Doesn't seem to be much gain in the IF, does there? Okay, this is the first IF transistor right here. This is going into the IF transformer, and then from there it comes out of here, and here's the second IF.
Attorneys today. Call 1-800-THE-LAW. That's 1-800-883-5292.
Your home is your castle.
So you can hear there's some gain there, and then coming out of there is the first audio transistor.
Your home will feel bigger. And feel happier.
We promise.
Give us a call.
That's going into the audio driver.
Drives past your home.
Well,
That's coming out. So it looks like there's no gain on the first IF transistor.
Call 1-800-GOT-JUNK.
1-800-GOT.
Most of us have seen losses in our retirement
None whatsoever.
virus. If you are retired,
But there is some gain in the second.
and yet investors are getting the same tired advice that did not work in the 2000.
I'm going to pull this transistor out. Here's the first IF. It checks as a focus. Alright, well, with that transistor replaced, it's just motorboating, so yeah, I don't know, it needs the right transistors put in it. You can usually get away with changing one or two with substitutes, but if they're all bad, and these don't go bad because you hook the batteries up backwards, they go bad from time. I don't know, I'm going to take a break from this thing. It's beating me up. These transistors, some of these radios are very sensitive to these transistors, and this looks like it's one of those where you have to get the exact right transistors or it just won't work. How about if we cheat and try these transistors in here?
But it's also true that knowing how to use the tool only comes with experience. Hi, I'm Jason Friend.
Okay, that's the IF. That's the IF transistor out of here that didn't check good. Let's put this one back.
And
I don't know. Which one works better? It's hard to tell.
and so it's
But it's important to know that you do have someone that can be.
no, we all that is touched.
It's weird. You get all kinds of weird squealing and motorboating with that transistor. Let's try this one. This was the converter out of this that tested bad. Well, that seems to work too.
Best oldies on LA.
Again, the same thing, all kinds of squealing.
95.
What do we got here? We got some love sounds going on. Oh, ding dong, dong, ding, ding, ding. No, dong, ding, 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 dong. Okay, let's try it in place of the oscillator here. This uses an oscillator mixer combination, not a converter. It works.
El padre resultado del
Me gustaba, ¿eh?
What a trip, man. These transistors work in this radio.
Buen nivel. Sí.
200.
una gran fan. 만나볼 수 있는데
los países que están siendo severamente
Okay, if I take the oscillator transistor that was in here and I put it in here, I get an airplane that won't let us hear what's actually going on. But yeah, it's basically, it's working very weak. That's the volume all the way up.
Last week. 75 degrees right now in downtown Los Angeles. Redondo Beach is at 71 degrees. And in Corona right now.
So why won't it work with, if I put the transistor that was in it, it won't work, but that transistor works in this radio. This is what I mean about these super picky converter transistors. If I put that in there, it just hisses at me. I just noticed something. The core is broken in this transformer. Just a case, these cores look broken. Okay, this core, I drove it out through the back, and yeah, it's broken. So I'll put it back in the other way so I could get to the screw part of it, the head. Okay, I'm starting to figure it out. So this is back to the very original converter transistor.
Everybody wants to
And
look
if
cool when
I...
they're running. Like, everybody wants to look cool when they're running.
That's how it was.
At a miniature golf course, so you're trying to hit a ball through a windmill and into the clown's mouth. Like, your mouth is wide open, your lungs are burning, your legs are complete jello, you're about ready to trip because you're shuffling your feet more than you're running. And the problem is people don't know how to pace themselves, so they're gunning early on as opposed to, and then finally you get about halfway through and you're like, oh my god, I can't do this. I was blown away by I work out minimum 5 days a week, cardio 5 or 6 days a week, and I did gas, and halfway through I'm like, oh, this is unbelievable. Like, my lungs have not burned like this in forever. So that football shape's a real thing. It's not
some people will tell you,
Like totally. So this is an alignment issue. Somebody screwed with these cores. I wonder if the AVC capacitor is bad. Okay, I'm going to put this back in.
And we'll end this afternoon in Coronado. Take a look at some trouble on the 605 next.
Are you suffering with knee pain? Have you tried shots, pills, yet you are still suffering with chronic knee pain caused by bone-on-bone osteoarthritis, a torn meniscus, a fall or accident? Have you been told that you need a knee replacement? Here is good news from Dr. Philip Yu, founder of 21st Century Pain Institute. You
That's a trip.
now have hope of reducing or eliminating your pain with a new non-surgical painless laser stem cell treatment, the West Coast's only laser-guided stem cell therapy. This new treatment may reduce or eliminate your knee pain in minutes.
Awesome, it gives one station now.
With your knee and back injuries, here's a special offer. Dr. Yu is offering a special $97 new knee
What a
day exam that includes an infrared laser joint inflammation scan, a Neuro 7 nerve test. Don't forget to shop. Deals on Craftsman tools. Quality parts, helpful people. That's next.
Okay, let's try and align this the way the book says. So 455, not really getting anything through it. It's below what I can hear. Crap. Oh man, how do I take this down just a little bit? Amplitude. Minus 30. Minus 30. And then how do you hit enter? I've never done this before. Okay, so here's how you do it. Minus 31 dBm. Get it just down to bare work, bare bad, for sure. Minus 35. Smoker's choice. So now with the IF aligned by the instructions here, all we're getting is just static. Tuning from one side to the other makes no difference, just static. Adjusting this does nothing. This thing is a trip.
The Patriots, just because Belichick's been there before. I think, even thinking of the Raiders.
What's going on here? I just touched this.
For a few years now. You really now guy for the Sacramento Kings, formerly Kansas City Kings.
I just turned that with the screwdriver and it started running.
After tweeting, all lives matter. You can make your own bread. Or being a head coach.
Take on the Black Lives Matter movement.
Having a Rush Limbaugh dump.
Texture that you like. Keep it fresh.
What the hell? Okay, well, I got LA Oldies. Let me tell you what I found is both of the capacitors on the both of the trimmers on the tuning condenser were turned down like as tight as those two trimmers right there were turned down as tight as they could be. This is just an alignment issue. Someone took a screwdriver to this. I've been chasing a screwed up alignment.
So if you don't win, you won't be charged a fee. Call 323-7777.
Doesn't sound that good, but look at the size of this speaker. This speaker's like an inch and a half.
It is a 238.
Has resigned after a fatal police shooting over the weekend on Saturday. More about that. That fatal shooting of a black man in Atlanta by police last night being investigated by a state agency. The victim was asleep in a vehicle in the drive-thru of a Wendy's restaurant. Drivers complained. Police were called. The man reportedly failed a sobriety test. Police say he resisted arrest, tried to take an officer's taser, and was shot. Vic Reynolds is the director of the Georgia Bureau of Investigation.
We want everyone to see what we have seen in this case. And that's why, again, I would ask for some patience. I don't want anyone in any circumstances to rush to any form of judgment. It's very easy to do in these cases on either side.
Now, the surveillance video appears to show the victim pointing the taser at an officer. But again, Atlanta's police chief has resigned in this less than 12.
More businesses are reopening throughout California.
I'm wondering if one of the output transistors is bad.
Coming up in 5 minutes.
So if I short this,
Police in Palm hoping independent investigators find
that's
out what
one of these
happened when it was
coils.
found hanging from a tree. All those stories aren't coming up.
If I short one of them, it wipes it out.
45. Together every 10 minutes.
If I short the other one, nothing.
Well, let's begin. And Diamond Park's in a better shape than we were at the start of this. And, the outcomes that they're getting are definitely...
Yeah, that transistor's got to have gas bloating and oily stools.
For jobs anymore, they know creatine boosts.
Yeah, it makes no difference with it out, so it must be bad, but we've been fighting that with this radio all day. Well, it's not bad, but it's not working. And I put this one in there with no difference, so what's going on here? Okay, winding on the transformer's open.
That some people thought maybe this is an unfair advantage and it could be considered, like taking a performance enhancement.
One of these two windings is open.
It's healthy, it's good for you, and it makes a difference. Most people aren't competing in sports. We all want an unfair advantage.
Okay, let me try and recap what's going on with the Zenith Royal 50. We started out with nothing, screwed around with transistors that weren't the problem. Turned out it was all an alignment issue. Someone had taken and twisted all these screws, tightened the two trimmers on the tuning capacitor all the way down. Everything was off. I went through and aligned it by the instructions with a signal generator that pretty much brought it back to life. I put the original transistors in. Then it sounds kind of weak and distorted to me.
You want to know where your money's going, all right?
So I start checking the push-pull audio output, and one of the two secondary windings that drives the bases on the two output transistors is open. So this transformer is bad. Now the way this audio output works is it uses kind of a positive and negative voltage with the two batteries center tapped. So one of these two windings is open, so you're only getting half of the audio output. So instead of it being, let's say, 100 milliwatts, it's probably like 25. That's why it kind of sounds weak and distorted. There's no fixing that transformer. Buy another one of these radios off eBay that isn't cracked.
Kids go back to school in the fall. The idea. In London's Trafalgar Square.
Sick, and we have 6th grade.
I mean, it works. Its sensitivity's there. Everything's there. It just sounds thin and tinny because half the audio signal's missing.